Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So working on the sky and hills to the right of the peacock's neck. Some bigger blocks of color, but I think it will have enough color changes to keep things interesting, I hope. So yeah, I am finally done dealing with my apple harvest, and oh my gosh, it was absolutely nuts this year. So the little tree that I planted in 2014 is really producing well now. I think about a quarter of our apples, maybe more, came from the little tree because it didn't produce as many, but they were all big, full baseball-sized ones because that tree's really healthy. So yeah, that was really nice. The dying tree, the older tree, the big tree, it produced a ton, but a lot of them were like runts. Like instead of I don't think we had hardly any full-sized apples. Most of them were smaller, and we had a few that were like, ping pong ball sized, just tiny. So that's the tree that has fungus growing on it. And yeah, the wind broke it because the trunk in that spot was like rotted almost all the way through. So yeah, I had someone say, oh no, if it's still producing apples, it's not dying. I'm like, no, trust me, it's not healthy. It's close to the end of its life because it's close to 50 years old. That's about how long they live. And yeah, when it's got fungus on it and the trunk is rotted through, that's not healthy. So I don't know, may not know much about trees, but I mean, I do know that much. So but anyway, I got, after adding the sugar to my juice, because I made almost 20 gallons of concentrate. Yeah, that was nuts. And then when I can it, I don't water it down, but I do add sugar to it as the apples are very, very sour. So you can't drink it like straight because yeah, it's just too sour. And so after adding that and then canning it and everything, I had 96 and like 3/4 of a liter. So yeah, that was just absolutely wild. That crop was unreal. That is the biggest I've ever had of harvest. It was just, yeah, absolutely unbelievable how much we got from those trees. And that's, like I said, concentrate, because I had 89 liters. I think it was one year. It was 2014, and but that was when I was still canning it, watering it down so you could drink it straight from the jar. I don't do that anymore. I can it as concentrate because it takes less space. And then also we can add carbonated water so we can have sparkling apple juice instead of just regular. And yeah, so I said that's 96 liters of concentrate. So that's more like, 180 liters of juice after you water it down because it's really strong. So yeah. Yeah, my legs were sore when I had to put it all away because I put it down. I have a cupboard downstairs where I keep my preserves because it's cooler downstairs in my basement, which of course is better for storing preserves. They say, keep it in a place that doesn't fluctuate a lot in temperature and is cool and dry if you can. And yeah, my husband made a cupboard for me actually way back when we were living in military housing. Yeah, because we had what they called a PMQ we rented, which is private married quarters. And it was a tiny little rancher that had been built like pre-World War II. And so it had like no closet space and like no cupboard space. Like I said, the closet was big enough to hang up like 2 shirts. There was just no room in there. And yeah, and then the counter space was like just tiny. Like by the time you had your microwave and, maybe your kettle and a couple other small appliances, there was no counter left. And of course we had no dishwasher, so there's a dish drainer rack too. And yeah, so he built me a cupboard, so it's like it was a countertop, and then there's set of drawers on one side and cabinets below, and then also it had cabinets above, and he even of course wired it to have power and everything because engineer, right? But yeah, so that was great. And then of course we kept it with us when we moved, and it fit like perfectly into our little spare room. So that's where I store all the home canned goods. So yeah, I had to go up and down the stairs like 20 times because I could only carry like 5 at a time in a box because they're quite heavy. And I didn't want it to like, you know, bust through the bottom of the box and break. So yeah, I got my steps in that day. I definitely didn't need to use a Stairmaster machine because, yeah. And then the next day I was saying like, man, you know, my legs hurt like I did a ton of squats, but I didn't. And then I realized, oh, actually I did because I was squatting down to like put the jars in the lower cabinets there without like sitting on the floor or anything. So yeah, actually I did do a ton of squats. So yeah, I definitely got my lower body workout in that day. But yeah, we estimate that was about 5,000 apples off those 2 trees. That was just, yeah, ton of work. I say every year I sort of have to forget how much work it is, so I'm willing to do it again because, yeah. But yeah, and unfortunately, we had some of the worst smoke that we'd had this summer, and I mean it hasn't been great this entire summer, but it was some of the worst. And so I couldn't open the windows, so it was humid like a sauna in the house with doing the canning because it's, you know, boiling water bath processing. So yeah, it was like you walked into the kitchen and you could feel the humidity go up like 25%, you know. Oh, but it's all done, so that's good. Yeah, and he helped me this year because he was on his holidays from work, so he cored all the apples for me, which is the most labor-intensive part. So I did all the juicing and the straining and the canning it, cooking it and canning it, and he did all the washing the apples and coring them for me, which I really appreciated because I would have a really sore back by the time I'm done. I think part of it is because I'm shorter, so it's kind of an unnatural height to be coring the apples because I use an apple wedger, right, where it's got like the center core and then it wedges the rest of the apples into pieces. But he's taller than me, so he doesn't have to like get up on his toes or bend into weird ways like I do. And plus, I'm pretty sure I have some kind of connective tissue disorder. I can dislocate quite easily. So yeah, it's not as painful for him to do. So yeah, I really appreciated that. He did that for me. He said, well, I'm not going to sit around on my, you know, butt while you do all the work. So yeah. But yeah, so we gathered all of them into the house, and we had this huge old toy bin of our son's, and yeah, it was filled with apples. And then we had 2 coolers full of apples and like about 4 boxes, a laundry basket completely full. Yeah, it was just wild. Yeah, our son helped pick them all up, and yeah, I was worried I was running out of boxes to put them all in. But yeah, I kind of liked having all the apples inside because I found when I do it myself, I do a bunch, then I go outside and get them, and having to sort of, you know, get down to pick up the apples and then getting back up again afterwards is like, oh, so hard. Legs would be so sore. So yeah, that was a big help. Yeah, I actually made a video of how I do making and preserving the apple juice, if you want to check it out. Yeah, I did that, and I made jam too. The other half requested that it be blueberry apple again, because I use whatever fruit I have and then use the rest of it with apple to make up the 10 cups of fruit that I then turn into jam. So yeah, I've made raspberry. I had peach one year. I had plum one year because, yeah, one of my friends, she had a whole bunch of frozen plums that her mom had given her. She's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these. Maybe I'll throw them out. And I'm like, hey, I'll take them. And turned them into plum apple jam. And I gave her a couple jars as a thank you for the fruit. So, yeah, everyone was happy. Yeah. And I did raspberry one year, which I was surprised it was like this bright, almost like neon looking pink. Like it looked like Jello or like something that had had artificial color added to it, but it hadn't. Yeah, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, the blueberry is the seems to be the most popular. So, well, I kind of prefer that. I made strawberry once. Pardon me. And I discovered that strawberries foam a lot when you boil them, because of course you have to boil the fruit first until it's soft enough to puree it before you turn it into jam. And yeah, strawberries make a mess. They foam up a lot, and yeah, it's a pain. So yeah, I think I did strawberry and apple once, and I didn't do it since because I didn't like how hard it was to deal with the strawberries. Yeah, it was a lot of work. And then I, of course, had to do my most hated part, which is scrubbing down the sticky kitchen afterwards. Because, I mean, it just gets everywhere. Yeah. No matter how much you try to avoid it. I had to take my cross-stitch pieces off the walls that were near the edge of my kitchen. Because our kitchen, it isn't quite closed off from the rest of the house. It kind of opens into the living room. And that was where I had some finished cross-stitch pieces hanging. So yeah, I had to take those down because you don't want those getting stained with apple juice. So yeah. And yeah, my juicer has survived another year. It's yeah, I got it at Sears. Like, I think it's been through 10 harvests now, 10 seasons of making juice, and it's not quitting. Yeah. Not bad for a cheap, $60 juicer that we got on sale at Sears, which of course isn't around anymore. Yeah, I have a backup machine that I bought again that was on clearance, but every year I think maybe this will be the last year with the juicer, and then it holds out another year. So yeah, well, that's why we core the apples first, because the seeds and stems and stuff are very hard on the machine and it'll wear out really fast. So yeah, like they say you don't have to, but I think that's sort of like when somebody's making their morning cup of juice, not doing the kind of volume that we're doing with the machine. So yeah, at any rate, we do that. And yeah, I looked into getting an apple press, but they say you still have to core the apples first, which is sort of, the whole step I was trying to avoid by having an apple press. So yeah, like the ones that you don't have to core them first, the only ones that are strong enough to handle squishing apples versus like squishing, berries or something, which are a lot softer, they're like industrial machines. And I mean, I'm not paying like $5,000 for a machine that's definitely not worth it anymore. So yeah. Yeah, and I looked, it's like thinking there has to be some kind of a coring machine, but again, yeah, they do have them, but they're only for industrial use, and yeah, it would cost as much as a small car, so not worth it. But yeah, it's done and we get to enjoy it now. It was kind of funny because we were in the midst of making it, and I had a jar of the last year's. And I said to my husband, want some juice? I'm going to have. So he's like, no, I don't really feel. I'm like, oh, you're sick of apples? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, see, for me, it's the opposite. I'm like, if I've been working on this all day, I want to enjoy the fruits of the labors. No pun intended. So, yeah. But yeah, we gave a box of jars to my in-laws when they came to visit and to take back with them, and got another couple of boxes he's going to take to work to share with people there. Yeah, I'm quite popular there because I send all the homemade stuff, so. Yeah. Yeah, and then it was interesting because he had read about how a lot of older vintage jars, canning jars might have lead in them, in the glass. So he got a black light, and yeah, about 10% of my jars did have heavy metals. So uranium glows green. There was one of those, that was it. And lead glows blue. And then out of curiosity, he used it on a bunch of our drinking glasses, and we discovered a bunch of them have lead. It's like, oh, been drinking out of those for years. We didn't know. And like they said, pretty much if you're using it to drink water and you're not letting like alcoholic or acidic foods like sit in it, you're probably okay. But just the idea now makes me uncomfortable, right? So, and then, oh, what a saga. I was trying to find glasses, and I bought these ones that said lead free. So we took them home, stuck them under the black light, and they glowed blue. And I'm like, well, that's false advertising, lead free. Like, I'm guessing that it might be if you have under a certain percentage of lead, you're allowed to call it lead free kind of thing. But I mean, yeah, silly me for thinking something that says lead free would be free of lead, right? So yeah, we returned those. And so then my husband had the black light. He had a big one and then a couple little flashlights. So we took the little flashlight with us to the store, and we're examining all the glasses till we found ones that didn't have any blue glow. So yeah. But yeah, it was kind of wild to me. And I mean, we've known for a long time that lead is harmful, and yet they're still allowing it to be put into new things that they make to contain food. Like, yeah, I was quite surprised about that. Yeah, like they say, if you're just drinking water bottle, it's probably fine, but you know what? I'd rather not. Just rather not take that chance, right? I'd rather avoid it altogether. So yeah, I posted about it on Facebook, and then I had someone say, oh no, I have my grandparents' antique crystal and now I'm afraid to use it. I said, yeah, black light's about $50, probably worth checking. Like, I know there was the old Corningware dishes, the ones that had the ring of little flowers on the outside. They have orangey yellow ones, and then they have blue ones. And there was a warning a while back saying that the blue ones should only be used for display because, the paint contained lead and it could potentially contaminate the food. So yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, and so like any of my canning jars that had heavy metals, we set them aside, and my husband said he'll just use them for non-food use. Like in the garage, you can put, nails or oil or whatever in them. And yeah, that's fine. And then I said, yeah, and if we're not going to keep them, I'd probably just throw them out, because I don't want somebody else not knowing that and buying them and putting, making food in them. Just not a good idea. Okay, don't normally cross as I go, but I am going to do that a bit here because I want this to end up on the opposite side that I started on. But yeah, like I was surprised with the drinking glasses because, okay, some of them I got from thrift stores, so I understood, they could be vintage, who knows how old they were. But some of the glasses that lit up blue, I bought them just a couple years ago. Like I said, you'd think there'd be, safety regulations about that, but there wasn't. So yeah, like I said, maybe they're considered to be under a certain amount is safe, but I'd just rather not have any potential, lead contamination. So yeah, you can hear my heat kicked on because, yeah, it is getting cold here already. In fact, it was wild. A couple days ago, it was hot enough to have the air conditioner on, and then this morning we had frost. So yeah, Canadian weather is just wild that way. In fact, a bunch of my friends had to run out and dig up the last of their summer garden because of the frost warning. And I saw a lot of people with tarps and stuff over theirs because one of our neighbors, they have a big squash garden on their front lawn, and they're not ready to be picked yet, but you don't want them to get potentially damaged by the frost. So yeah, although I remember my dad saying that carrots are better if you leave them until after the first frost, because they get sweeter, is what he said, that they pull in sort of their sugars because of the cold. And so yeah, some of them are wrecked by frost, but some of them are made better by it. So yeah, like I said, doing all that apple juice, it looks like my nails are dirty, but I swear to you, they're not. It's they're stained with juice. Yeah, I have scrubbed them, but yeah, there's nothing you can do much about that except wait for it to wear off. I do wear gloves when I'm doing all that juicing, but I mean, you can't avoid getting it on your hands entirely. It's just not possible. Because yeah, I learned the hard way. Juicing that many apples without gloves on will just, it's very bad for your skin. Yeah, the acidity of it will cause them to dry out and crack, and it's very painful. So yeah, I learned the hard way. Wear gloves. Yeah, if you're only doing, you know, a dozen apples or so, you'd probably be fine. But when you're doing several thousand, yeah, you need to protect your hands. Yeah, so I got a bit dry, and I still have some prescription strength cream left from the time that I didn't know better and did all my juicing barehanded. So yeah, I'm using that, try and heal it up. But yeah, you know, I have friends who are like, say, oh, I want to go live off the grid and grow all my own food. And I'm like, yeah, I could tell you after dealing with my apple harvest, I would not want to be responsible for growing and preserving all my own food. Like, oh my gosh, it is a lot of work. And I mean, you have to know what you're doing too, or it could be potentially dangerous. Like, I always tell people, just because a jar's sealed does not mean it is safe. You need to process it properly. And low acid foods like, you know, green beans or something, they have to be pressure canned, because in a boiling water bath canner, you cannot get the temperature high enough to ensure that it kills any potential harmful bacteria or spores that could have gotten in there. Yeah, like they said with jams and fruits and things that are high in acid, like apples, you could use the boiling water bath, because sort of the acidity of the food does the rest for you. You can get it hot enough. But yeah, for a food that is not, you either have to add something acidic, like, which is why you make, you know, why making pickles started, is because adding the vinegar, it makes it the correct acidity for it. Or lime juice for, say, if you're preserving tomatoes or something, because they're not quite acidic enough. But yeah, I've actually done pressure canning meat before too. So yeah, because I made my own chicken broth and chicken, which was kind of nice when you wanted soup, and it would taste like something that had been simmering all day, but you'd just thrown it all in the cooking pot, you know, half an hour before. So, but again, it's a lot of work, so I haven't done it in quite a while. But oh man, gravy made with homemade broth, oh, chef's kiss. It is so good. Yeah, I often would go and pick up chicken when it was on clearance, you know, 30% off at the store, and then yeah, make a bunch of chicken stock, and chicken, obviously. The meat would be canned too. Yeah, my son didn't like it though. He's like, Mom, the house smells like meat. Yeah, he is in 11th grade now, which is just like, holy cow, how did that happen? Actually, I'm going to do a different color here. Yeah. Yeah, there'll be one more grade, and then he's graduating, which is just like, where does the time go? Oh my gosh. Yeah, one of my friends, she posted, saying, and then there was one, because she has 4 kids, but the 3 oldest have graduated and are either, you know, working or in college. So yeah, she's just got the one left who's the same age as my son. It's like, yeah, how did that happen? Yeah, I met her actually through a Moms and Tots group when our kids were about, 3 or 4. So yeah, it's just like, how? Yeah, and then there's of course some kids that I met there that were a couple of years older, and then seeing them on, parents on Facebook that they're graduated. It's like, wait, no, what? Oh, yeah, it goes so quick. Like I was saying to my in-laws, when I met my husband, they had just celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. And now it's going to be ours in a few years. And it's going to be their 50th in a few years. Like, oh, gee, next year maybe? Something like that. But yeah, next year or the year after, it's going to be their 50th, which is just like, wow. Yeah, so it was nice. My husband's aunt came all the way from Hungary, and she doesn't speak any English, but she told me through my other relatives that my accent was pretty good, because I did try a bit of Hungarian, so yeah. Yeah, actually, I was quite surprised when they would talk that I actually caught more than I thought I would. Yeah. I used to catch maybe like 1% of the words, and now I caught about 10%, so definitely nowhere near fluent yet, but that is an improvement, right? So you got to start somewhere. Oh man, I can't remember what show it was that I was watching. Some sci-fi, but anyway, they had like a pill where you could take it and be fluent in the language instantly, and then they said that once the pill wears off, like you keep the fluency. I'm like, okay, that would be so cool. I would love that. But yeah, unfortunately. And yeah, like I said, unfortunately, Hungarian is one of the hardest to learn for a person who has English as their first language. The structure is so different. It's, they call it language isolate, which means it really doesn't have much in common with other languages. It kind of developed on its own, because a lot of languages, of course, have similarities. Like you have, Portuguese, French, Italian, Spanish, they share a lot of similarities. So if you know one, learning another in that language family is a bit easier. But yeah, I said Hungarian has a little bit in common with Turkish and Russian, but otherwise not really. It's listed as one of the hardest. The only harder ones to learn are like Chinese and yeah, Japanese and other languages, so but I'm trying. Not great at languages, but we might visit Hungary someday, so who knows. It was funny actually, because I thought that my family would have a noticeable, Canadian accent by now, because they've been here over 40 years now. And but she said no, they went there, and she was at the market, and she asked the guy, oh, where are the eggs, because she couldn't find them. And he says, well, in the usual place, because he thought she's a local, right? And she said, yeah, they're kids. I mean, they're adults now, but they went asking for directions, and the people said, well, why are you asking? Don't you live here? Because they spoke fluent Hungarian, and so they thought they couldn't possibly be tourists. So, yeah. Yeah, because, they're not used to seeing younger people speaking it unless you actually live there. They said, it's not spoken a lot outside of Hungary, so I think they said it's about 15 million people speak it, which sounds like a lot, but when you consider, worldwide population is in the billions, it's not really that much. Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting because they said there's formal and informal. And I said, oh, it's like learning two at once. But my husband's like, yeah, don't really worry about the formal, because you only really have to use that if you're like in a government office or something, which you're probably not going to be. And, you know, the language learning lessons said that, you know, if you're obviously a tourist, people will be pretty patient with you even if you get it wrong, because they'll be just happy that you're even trying, because a lot of people don't even bother trying to learn it. So but yeah, I was surprised that they said my accent was pretty good, because I was sure I was butchering it. So because yeah, my husband still has a little bit of a accent, because he didn't start learning till he was 5. And then he's the oldest, and then the next oldest actually worked really hard to lose his accent and assimilate. But his wife said that when he gets tired, it does come back a bit. But yeah, the youngest 4 were all born here, and they speak both. They're fluent in both, but they don't really have an accent when they speak English, so, which makes sense because they learned both languages at the same time. So, because yeah, they say the reason is every language has different phonetic sounds, and so when you're trying to learn another one, you're still speaking it with like your native phonetic sounds, so that's why it sounds kind of weird. Yeah. But yeah, I can catch enough words that I can kind of make out what's probably being said. So yeah, it was funny. I remember one time, because we were at some function, and my sister's boyfriend's dad at the time, he said hi to me, and my mother-in-law asked, like, well, how do you know him? But she asked it in Hungarian, but I knew that's what she was going to ask, so I just answered her. And then my sister-in-law was like, how did you know what she was saying? She didn't ask it in English. I'm like, well, I figured that's what it would be, so I didn't have to ask her to translate. So yeah. Or there was a couple times, like one time his younger brother made some rude joke, and I said, oh my gosh. And he said, how did you know what I was saying? You know, was it Hungarian? And I'm like, well, I caught enough words, and I know how the mind of a 13-year-old boy works. So I could guess. Uh, But yeah, you have to be careful, because you never know who can speak the language, even if you think they don't. My husband said they were at Six Flags or something once in Canada, you know, when they were younger. He and his brother were like, you know, 11 and 12 or something. So they were off on their own waiting for a ride, and they're speaking in Hungarian, and they noticed these older people are kind of looking at them. And they're like, you know, what are these people staring at? You know, these old farts staring at, or whatever. And then later they go back to meet up with their parents, and they see this couple talking to their parents in Hungarian. It was like, oh, whoops. They knew what we were saying. So yeah. He said, yeah, they booked it the other way and waited till they left, because they didn't want to have to explain they'd called them old farts, and they understood what they were saying. But yeah, like I said, they were probably surprised to see younger people in Canada speaking Hungarian, because yeah, like I said, it's not spoken very much outside of the country. So okay. So yeah, a bit of sky here, and it's coming into the hills sort of on the side of, or on the water's edge there. So yeah, I've got some clouds up here, and then I think this is a bit of the hills. Harder to tell when you're close up. Have to sort of back up to really see it. Yeah, so I lost a few stitching days to dealing with my harvest, so I did not get very much done on Firefly last month. Yeah. Hoping to get bit more, because yeah, I was really excited I got to the top of Inara's head, but yeah, I didn't really get much done on her, so I'm hoping I can get at least part of her forehead done this month. Start seeing the detail. Okay, so this thread, and then I'm just going to check this other one of this color here. Okay, see how long that is. Not terribly. Okay, that'll help me decide what I'm going to do with each thread here, since I have more than one. So this one I'm going to hug this edge and then park it down below, I think, because the other one is only really long enough for the 3 sort of scattered stitches there. You have to be really careful in this area because a lot of these squares are very similar, so I have to count them carefully to make sure I'm in the correct one. Another reason, again, why I like my gridding, because I would get lost very easily, I think. This is, okay, well, there we go. Kind of neaten it up a little bit there. And let's see, this one, yeah. I might just stitch with it so that I can tie it off. Actually, let's not do that one. Let's do this. And I can sort of see a place where I can make a natural sort of break point. Continue filling in before I head up to the top again. Yeah, but where we live is not much of a tourist trap because my husband's aunt wanted to buy some souvenirs, and we sort of went to all the dollar stores and stuff around, but there really wasn't much. So yeah, I said you have to go to sort of a tourist trap place like Harrison Hot Springs or Tofino or something to find a lot of, or Victoria, or yeah. Ours is not really a tourist trap, so. Okay, so I'm gonna scooch over here a bit. Okay, and again, I've got 2 attached. Okay, let's see how long that one is. Oh, I don't have 2 attached. I'm just, yeah. There's so many threads here. I thought there were 2 of the same color, but then no, there aren't. I just wasn't paying attention. Yes, I'm going to carry this one over towards the right and add more lower down, new threads lower down when I get there. Yeah, I feel like this summer went by really quick. Hard to believe it's fall already. Yeah, my mother-in-law was remarking on how our leaves are changing color because here on the prairies, our cold weather arrives a lot sooner. They live in BC, and yeah, you can be wearing shorts into, you know, mid-October sometimes. It's warm enough there, but here by that time we have snow. Or at least it's cold enough for snow, even if none has actually fallen, so. Yeah, I'm a little nervous because this will be my son's first winter driving. I mean, he did practice a lot of snow driving with his dad before he got his license. They went to a lot of different, you know, empty parking lots so he could try it out, feel like what it feels like when your car skids and how to get it back under control and stuff, so. Yeah, I don't know if it's helped him. They used to watch, when it was still on, they watched Canada's Worst Driver a lot. So, yeah, he learned a lot of techniques because they had all sorts of interesting driving challenges on that show. But yeah, it was funny because the little sort of graphic they had for it showed like a car, little car skidding next to the logo, and it would say it's Canada's worst driver. So one time, yeah, I fishtailed a little on the ice, and my kid said that. I'm like, yeah, thanks. He was like 7 or 8 at the time. Yeah, it's funny. I'm like, I'm not the best driver, but I'm certainly not the worst one, you know? Like, I'm not going to be doing any fancy precision driving or anything like that, but yeah, I'm pretty safe, you know? The couple times that I've been in accidents was somebody rear-ended me, so they weren't my fault. Yeah, I didn't even have to pay my deductible. Yeah, so I'm estimating 21% by the end of this month, but we'll see. Yeah, because there's a lot of bigger blocks of color here, so that'll help, but I was dealing with my apples for, you know, a while, so I lost some time to that because life. Okay, yeah, this is not very long. I think I'm going to have to actually add another thread here. Yeah, that's just the way it is. Okay. Okay, let's see. Get myself some more thread here. So that'll be over 60,000. We're at almost 57,000. So yeah, I think that should be doable. We will see. I'll have to do a more precise calculation later. I can't do it in my head. As I've said before, my mental math skills are not great. That's not good. Yeah, we got a knot back there. There we go. It's quite a big one, but it popped apart easily, so that's good. Yeah, sometimes the tiny knots are actually the hardest to try and undo. Yeah, I discovered I have more jars than I thought because I used up almost 100 of them with the juice, and my husband sent a bunch aside, big box aside. I think he found about 20 or 30 that were lead, and I still have several boxes. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever have to buy another jar for the rest of my life. So yeah, people are always, oh, get your jar back. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But, you know, don't have to rush because I have so many that I'm not running out anytime soon. just going to kind of cut it off there for now. I may extend further to the right, but we'll see. I'm going to fill in some more of this here first before we do that. Okay, so I'm going to pull 648 and put it in my working tray. As I can see, there's a ton of it coming up. Yeah, a whole bunch on this hill here. Goodness. Careful here, this thread is almost trying to form a knot as I pull it out of the strand. There we go. So, yeah, just making sure it doesn't cause me trouble later. I have a PVR full of shows too, since I was busy preserving all my juice there. Yeah, I was saying about how doing all that coring makes me sore, and my mother-in-law said, you know, what about one of those ones that peels and cores at the same time? I said, yeah, but I got sore from doing a twisting motion constantly, so yeah, kind of can't win. Either way, you're going to get repetitive pain. So yeah, I did that one year because I have dehydrators, so I dehydrated the apples, but then we didn't really eat them that much, so yeah. I found, and I made applesauce one year, and again, we didn't eat as much of it, so I find the juice is sort of the one that is the best for it actually getting used, because, you know, you'd hate to do all that work only to have to discard it later, so, because you should try to use home canned goods within a year or close to it, so. Which is why, yeah, when I go to make my new batch, any remaining jars, we give them all away so that they get used up. Yeah, my husband's still off work right now. He had to go in for some big meeting, and I packed up a couple boxes of jars, but I think he forgot to take them, so that's all right. He'll take them when he goes back to work next week, so. A few extra days won't make a huge difference, so. Yeah, and I was saying he warned everybody, you know, it's concentrate, make sure you water it down, and yeah, his coworker, oh, I'll be fine, and then yeah, afterwards he had a gut ache and said, oh, I should have listened. Yeah, I had that at, I worked in the Chinese restaurant. We made orange chicken, which used concentrate orange juice, and we had some left over, and so our boss had it, and we did water it down, but I guess not enough, because yeah, we all paid for it later. Yeah, because like they say, to one you know, container of the concentrate, you're supposed to add 4 parts water, and I think we only did like half and half, and that was not enough. I can tell you that. And orange juice, so it's quite acidic, so yeah, I'm never making that mistake again. Is there a hair stuck in there? It almost looks like it. Is it just an illusion of the light, maybe? Yeah. Maybe it just got pulled free. Yeah, I like to keep a pair of tweezers on hand for any hair that gets stuck in there. Especially pet hair was a big issue, but yeah, unfortunately we lost our little piggy. Yeah, I miss her. Yeah, my mother-in-law says, "Oh, you're gonna get another one." I'm like, I don't think I'm ready to get my heart broken again, you know, because they don't live terribly long. I mean, ours did. She was probably 9, but most guinea pigs were not going to live that long. And yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready to get my heart broken again in maybe another 4 years. Yeah. Eventually, I probably will. I already said I want to get 2 girls and name them Tribble and Dax. Star Trek. So I'm convinced that they modeled Tribbles on guinea pigs because they make this, you know, similar kind of purring, cooing sounds, and yeah, breed like crazy. So there we go. Yeah, that actually was fun. They for the 25th anniversary of Star Trek, they did that on Deep Space Nine. They took the trouble with Tribbles, and they actually green screened in characters from Deep Space Nine into the show. So yeah, that was really fun. Okay, just do maybe, or I'll cut it off. We'll see. Yeah, I'll do a little bit here. So I unthreaded that thinking I wouldn't use it again, but actually I will use it a bit because this top row here, then I can do all 3 sort of in that row of that % sign symbol. Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because when we got our guinea pig, we didn't intend to get a pet at all. Yeah, was somebody abandoned her in a parking lot, poor thing, and they brought her into the pet store where my sister-in-law was working. She was living with us at the time, and she brought her home just for the weekend to, you know, because she actually tried to get somebody to adopt her, and that fell through, and she didn't want to leave her there all weekend because she was the one really caring for the piggy. So she brought her home for the weekend to fatten her up and, you know, find a new foster family. And of course, well, we all know how that turned out. Yeah, she just never left. So it's always the way, right? Often say we don't choose our animals, they choose us. Yeah. Yeah, she came to our house and she climbed into our hearts and never left. So yeah, she was a sweetie. Poor thing. I think she was mistreated because she, like we said, she was starving. She was so thin. You could feel all her ribs, and she wouldn't let us hold her for quite a while. Yeah, it took a while before she trusted us. So yeah, she didn't purr until she'd been with us for about a month. So it was so special when she started purring. That meant she felt safe enough. Yeah, and when we first fed her, she ate everything that we gave her. And then after that, about the 1 month mark, she started getting picky with the food because I guess she realized that she was going to get enough to eat. So she didn't have to worry about gobbling down everything in sight. There was going to be plenty for her. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, this color, as you can see, there's a lot of it. And they have more than one thread, so it's just gonna be kind of stitched with both sort of meeting in the middle until they run out and I have to add more. Or sometimes when one runs out, I take over with the other thread and do the whole area with the same thread. Sometimes I add new ones. It just all depends on what makes sense to me at the time. Okay, so park this one over a bit. Put that there. So I'll be excited to get to the garden wall on this. We'll have a bit more colors a bit more detail to work on. But yeah, then the next pass there'll be some ocean, and then the peacock's chest. So those will be big blocks, but then we're going to start getting into, yeah, tail feathers, which I am really looking forward to working on. Beautiful, vibrant colors. Yeah, I love the bright colors on the peacock. It's so eye-catching. Yeah, what really drew me to this piece. Yeah, I don't think I could work on any of the more monochrome ones. Like I've seen people working on Middle Earth map, and I mean, it looks amazing, but yeah, I think I would get too bored working on so much beige. I like watching other people's projects, but yeah, I don't think that one would be for me. But that's the nice thing about this hobby. There's something for everyone, right? Yeah. No matter what you're into, you can probably find a pattern that will be a design you like, because they're so varied. Yeah, there we go. I accidentally split the fabric there that time, so now we have ends coming up. So let's just coax them back to the other side. Yeah, I bent my my snag tool a little bit there, but it still works. That's the important part, right? Another end. This area is just being very messy with those ends there. Probably going to end up with another thread of this color, I think. Okay, I think I'll work with the other one. Another strand of this color for a while. Look at that, we're closing in on 200 done. Nice. Don't have any there knots or loops on the back there. Tug of war going here between these different bits here. Ends are trying to come up, and then there we go. Trying to put them back is pulling these stitches loose, so yeah, I gotta be careful. Trying to keep everything nice and neat. That's better. because of the way this color breaks up with other colors, I'll probably have another thread added. That's okay, I do not mind. Yeah, or you could choose to do them out of order and leave gaps, you know, totally up to you. I prefer not to, but there's no right or wrong way, just your way. Goodness, there being a tricky spot there. Trying to bring my needle up without piercing other threads, but it was being a pest. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap this up here. Got quite a lot done today. Hopefully it was somewhat interesting for you. So thank you so much for joining me today, as usual, and I hope to see you here again another time. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.